Yo, what up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? No news. What up? Stefan, what up? Saul, what up? Ahmad, what up, dog? Karen Timors, what up? Chris Brown, what up? Tech Boy, what up? Yeah, man. We finna get off into some shit today, man. Straight up. Let's go to Cash App for anybody interested. See what else we got in here. Shells, what up, man? What up? Brother Zeke, what up, man? Yeah, gonna get off into some shit, man. Yep. Y'all see, I got the customary Tether, we are the world background behind me. I got all my tabs ready to go. Lion, what up, man? What up? No, this hoodie got canceled. Shit. I can put it back up there. Wait, give me a minute. Or you can just order it direct for me. You just order it direct for me. Distant Rose, what up, man? All right, man. So what we're about to talk about today is a weaponized administrative concept that has been used against Black Americans time and time again, right? It's been used against Black Americans time and time again. Now, this brother Saul inspired this. You know, he talked about demographic fraud, but when that brother Saul came to me about, and shout out to him, shout out to Machismo, when he came to me about the demographic fraud, he was speaking more in the contemporary sense about demographic fraud. Now, y'all already know how I am. If you come to me with something contemporary, the first thing I'm going to figure out is just how much the past is prologue in whatever particular subject that we're dealing with, right? So, like I said, this is a form of weaponized administrative classification that has been used against Black Americans, right? The first time I can recall that happening is shortly after Bacon's Rebellion, right? A lot of things that you wonder about in this country, a lot of things that you wonder about the way that this society is formatted, you will make your journey of discovery that much easier is if you just refer back to Bacon's Rebellion. It's so many things you can refer back to Bacon's Rebellion for. Jim Crow laws, Bacon's Rebellion, right? The enmity between so-called Black men and women, Bacon's Rebellion. Black feminism, Bacon's Rebellion. Gun control, Bacon's Rebellion, right? Miscegenation laws, Bacon's Rebellion. Love versus Virginia, Bacon's Rebellion. Interracial marriage, Bacon's Rebellion, right? In case many of you don't recall, Bacon's Rebellion was a short-lived military conflict. Well, we'll refer to Wikipedia. Okay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion was an armed rebellion by Virginia settlers that took place from 1676 to 1677 and was led by Nathaniel Bacon against Colonel Governor William Berkeley. After Berkeley had refused Bacon's request to drive out Native Americans out of Virginia, thousands of Virginians from all classes, including those in indentured servitude and slavery, and races, rose up to arms against Berkeley, chasing him out of Jamestown and ultimately torching the settlement. The rebellion was first suppressed by a few armed merchant ships from London, whose captains sided with Berkeley and the Loyalists. Government forces led by Herbert Jeffreys arrived soon after and spent several years defeating pockets of resistance and reforming the colonial government to be once more under direct crown control. While the rebellion did not succeed in the initial goal of driving out the Native Americans from Virginia, it did result in Berkeley being recalled to England, where he died shortly thereafter. Bacon's Rebellion was the first rebellion in the North American colonies in which discontented frontiersmen took part. A somewhat similar uprising in Maryland invoking John Good and Josiah Fendall took place in 1689. In Africans between European indentured servants and Africans, a mix of indentured and enslaved free Negroes, which were indigenous, disturbed the colonial upper class. They responded by hardening the racial caste system of slavery in an attempt to divide the two races from subsequent uprisings with the passage of the Virginia slave codes. There you see right there at the end of that passage how designations could be weaponized against so-called black people. And you also in that passage see the origins of flat blackness. Notice that they made a differentiation between Africans and free people of color. What were free people of color? Now back then you didn't have a bunch of Pakistanis and Sikhs and Hindus and Sri Lankans coming here. No, because that's what they try to say a person of color is now. Shit, they might be blacker than you, and they're a person of color, right? It's neither here or there. So, what would a free person of color be? You will be a free person of color. I will be a free person of color. The Africans that they talking about back then were literally Africans. There were indentured servants that came from Angola. Here's the origin of flat blackness. A lot of those Angolans that they brought over were indentured servants. But the free blacks, well, not the free blacks, but the slaves were prisoners of war who were indigenous Americans for the most part. See, that's what the school's not going to tell you. So right then there, even before we become a nation, even before we succeed from British rule, from the crown rule, they're already weaponizing classifications against so-called black people from America. They're already constructing flat blackness. You see that? They're already constructing flat blackness. And they're already showing preferential treatment to Africans already before the United States is even a country. So I don't want to hear none of that 1619 project bullshit. Want to hear none of that shit. So this started with Bacon's Rebellion, right? Now there are many writings by British merchantmen, fur traders, explorers, right? And they classified the natives as Negroes. Even when Giuseppe Verrazzano came here, he said that the natives were Negroes. He said that they were not unlike, they were copper-colored people, not unlike Ethiopians. So right then and there, before we even get out of the Pilgrim, George Washington tricorner hat era, we already giving preferential treatment to Africans. We already doing flat blackness. They ain't tell you that in school, did they? No. So after that come the Pequot Wars, the Narragansett Wars, and wait a minute. Before I even get too far into the meat of that, right? So out of Bacon's Rebellion comes a few things, right? Out of Bacon's Rebellion comes miscegenation laws, right? See, they couldn't have these people strengthening up ties and being collegial and kinship. They needed to divide these people. How can you divide a bunch of people that's married to each other and drinking with each other every day? You need some type of separation. You need some type of segregation. After Bacon's Rebellion, you black, you white, you black and you white. After Bacon's Rebellion. Notice I didn't say you a Frenchman, you a Narragansett, you a Wampanoag, you Dutch, you Spanish. Notice you Swedish. I didn't say that. No. You're black and you're white. You're black and you're white. Wait a minute. Put y'all goggles on and come down this rabbit hole with me right now. Put y'all goggles on and come down this rabbit hole with me right now. You know how they be talking that red man shit? Am I the only one that noticed that nobody ever talked about a so-called red man until the Spanish started bringing South Asian people here as slaves? Nobody talked about a red man before then. They talked about Negroes and white people, though. Nobody talked about a red man. They didn't talk about red man into shit. Whew, damn near the 1800s. Why is that? That's because you had to go way off into the hinterlands to find them. And most of them was enslaved by the indigenous blacks that was west of the Mississippi. Or they was eking out an existence in the desert in lands that was so desolate that they didn't have to contest nobody for them. Then all of a sudden, after the Spanish Empire begins to fall, we start talking about red men. Oh, they didn't have the soldiers to keep those slaves in captivity anymore. Oh, damn, Tito. Yep. I bet y'all thought I was going to say after rebellion, after Bacon's rebellion, they said you black, you white, and you're red. No, wasn't no red men then. God damn it, wasn't none. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Out of Bacon's rebellion comes gun control. Out of Bacon's rebellion comes the very stripping of manhood from the so-called black man in America to this very day. Is not part of manhood protection. Matter of fact, Bacon's rebellion invalidates black feminism and exposes it as the complete fucking lie that it is. How do you rebel against a patriarchy that doesn't exist? How? How do you rebel against a patriarchy that don't exist? If I can't set a train in the mud and run it and say, oh, it's tracks right there, I can't rebel against the patriarchy that don't exist. See, after Bacon's rebellion, all of these colonies made laws. Well, not all, but most of these colonies made laws where the so-called black man was barred from keeping weapons. The final and most extreme form of manhood and patriarchy is the use of physical violence to protect. And you strip that from the black man. So how do you, a few hundred years later, claim that you've been oppressed by him? How? You can't. You can't. Also, out of Bacon's rebellion comes miscegenation laws. They had to control who had access to white pussy after this. Before, it wasn't no control. It was just basically loose social contracts and familiar preferences before this. White women could marry whoever the fuck they wanted to in these colonies, as long as they was in the same class as that person, or the person was a class up on them. We all know that's still how women get down today. But they had to control who had access to white pussy. So out of Bacon's rebellion comes miscegenation laws. The first miscegenation laws. These laws were again reaffirmed after the Civil War in the additional states, because the additional states didn't have miscegenation laws because there was no necessity for them, because the so-called black man was in bondage in those states, right? But the concept of gun control also comes out of Bacon's rebellion, because again, in most of these southern colonies, right then and there, free persons of color couldn't possess firearms. Right? Now, moving on from Bacon's rebellion, they continue to opine and discuss about indigenous Black Americans as Negroes. Crispus Attucks was the first so-called black man. Was the first so-called black man. Was the first person, period, to die trying to rebel against the British Crown. In the events leading up to the Revolutionary War and the Boston Massacre, and he is hailed as being black. But then when you do further investigation, you'll find out he's a Wampanoag. Now, some people will try to gaslight you and say, oh, well, he was mixed Wampanoag and no. He was a Wampanoag man. He was black. The Wampanoags, the Narragansetts, the Pequots, those were black tribes. They were black. The Oneida, they were black too until they got overtaken by $5 Indians. Right? So the crux of this weaponized identification comes after, ironically, after the administration, or rather during the administration of Andrew Jackson, which is coincidentally the first Democratic president of these United States. Now, Andrew Jackson was probably one of the most corrupt U.S. presidents that we've ever had. It's kind of crazy how usually when you talk about the most corrupt presidents, it's a Democrat. You know, your Andrew Jacksons, your Woodrow Wilsons, your Barack Obamas, your FDRs, corrupt. But where Andrew Jackson was corrupt at is by his benefit, his huge financial benefit that went against the emoluments clause in the Constitution, right? So Andrew Jackson was famous for saying that I never met an Indian that I didn't fight, and I never fought an Indian that I didn't kill. Now, understand this. The term Indian and Negro were interchangeable at this point, right? They were interchangeable. And so before Andrew Jackson was president, he invested an awful lot in landscape. I mean, in landscape, forgive me, in real estate. He invested a lot in real estate. And so when you think about the area of the southeastern United States, right? The first wars that Andrew Jackson have fought in, the Yamasee Wars and all of that, Seminole War, they annihilated a lot of those tribes that was there. And so as soon as they got them off of their land, they began basically sending out surveyors to divide this land up. They sent out surveyors to divide this land up. Now we are in the formative years of what would become known as the plantation system. See, before this, when you think about plantations in the United States, especially plantations in the southeastern United States, it doesn't really compare, you know, to this Bacon's Rebellion era. In the Bacon's Rebellion era, most of those plantation owners were like lower middle class. They were barely above the level of a subsistence farmer, because when they would grow their cash crops, they would basically trade the crops for the most part to commodities brokers. They didn't receive much cash. They received a little bit of cash, but mostly what they got were commercial goods that they needed. They would get things like so many yards of fabric. They would get, you know, wine, liquor, ammunition, black powder, things like that, a bunch of commercial goods. And these commodity brokers would a lot of times would have acquired these things for pennies on the dollar, and then they would get the indigo, the tobacco, the cotton from these plantation owners over here, then take them back to Europe and sell them for a shitload of money. So the first plantation owners in this country were actually getting stiffed. They were, right? But in these years that I'm talking about now, just before the Jackson administration starts, right? Oh, and dried meats. That was another one. Yeah, dried meats. Yeah, they wouldn't get much furs. Building materials, nails, and shit like that. Shit like that. That the colonies back then really didn't have the industrial capacity yet to produce, but Europe had the industrial capacity to produce. Right? That's the type of things they would get. Wagon wheels, shit like that. Right? So when these plantations on these lands vacated by a decimated tribes, they're being surveyed, parceled out, and Andrew Jackson makes huge amounts of money from speculation on this land and subsequent sales. And he sells what his cronies sell this land with one secret promise. Do y'all know what that is? Y'all gonna have to hit the cash app after y'all hear this one. Cause this is gonna fuck y'all head up. This is shit that they didn't tell you in grammar school. The secret campaign promise that Andrew Jackson whispered in the ear of his cronies, who whispered in the ear of all of them people buying their land. If you make sure that our man gets elected, we'll get rid of the rest of these niggas off of this land for you. Hence the Trail of Tears. I'm gonna give y'all a couple of seconds to digest that one. I'm gonna give y'all a couple of seconds to digest that one. Cause in presidential politics, with every presidential candidate, it's always some secret backroom deal. It's always some secret promise. It's always some tacit quid pro quo that the public don't know about. Always. And he told his cronies, hey, tell them if they worried about buying this land, tell them if I get in, I'll get rid of the rest of these niggas off of this land for them. Just like I did in South Carolina. Tell them. Tech Boy writes, yep, Cherokee County, Georgia, Forsyth County, Georgia, which ain't that far from it, was well known sundown towns. Trail of Tears started there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. And Andrew Jackson got elected, and he told all of them, hey, y'all got a certain amount of time, y'all got to leave. We removing y'all the reservations. When y'all think of these reservations, and y'all wonder why when y'all go to these reservations now, the natives look way different from how they did when the Trail of Tears first started. You go to these reservations now, damn near everybody there got gray eyes. Or everybody there look like a bread back Mexican. Those reservations were death camps. They sent our people out there to fucking starve. They gave our people, once they got them there, they gave them flour that was full of weevils. They gave them rancid meat with maggots in it. They sent our people out there to die and to be slowly replaced. And they were slowly replaced by Siberian slaves that used to be under the Spanish Empire and $5 Indians. But see, it wasn't going fast enough. The death camp process, the extinction process that they condemned our people to as part of the Deuteronomy 28 curse, it wasn't going fast enough. It wasn't going fast enough. So that's when the Dawes Roll started. Now, here we are once again with this weaponized classification, this demographic fraud against foundational Black Americans. That's when the Dawes Roll starts, because they weren't running them extinct fast enough. So when the Dawes Roll first started, that's when any poor white person could pay $5 and register as an Indian and get sent right to one of them reservations. Now, what do you think happened when them poor white people came out to them reservations? They went right to them reservations and oppressed them niggas that was on them, and they sealed them out of anything they could get, any type of opportunity, and they ostracized them, and they slowly went extinct. All our ancestors that went to them reservations went extinct. And the ones that remain, that still carry our bloodline for the purposes of keeping up the illusion, they were forced to accept some of these Dawes Roll fakers as members of their tribe. So that's why you can see a tribe, that's why you can see Pequot people. That's why you can see Shinnecock people on their reservations that's black as you, as me, or blacker, but then you will see white ones too. Now, if they one tribe, why are they that polymorphous? You feel me? Right? Y'all might want to try to download this motherfucker before they take it down. I'll tell y'all that now. The brother Lion, he talking about leaving public. So because the Jackson administration understood what they had did, because the Democrats understood what they had did, for more than a century, they understood what they had did, and they knew that as soon as Reconstruction started, they knew that the black man was going to take advantage of the legal and administrative processes of this country. Right? They knew it was going to come to a point where we was going to demand our land back. So that's when Walter Plecker, let me go get this tab. That's when Walter Plecker, continuing in the tradition of this demographic, this weaponized demographic fraud, see that? Walter Plecker asserted that the Virginia Indians no longer exist. With the swipe of a pen, this man made the tribes of our ancestors extinct. See that? Historical background. Virginia has had a long legacy of legally defining people by race. Colonial laws on slavery, which often use the words Negro and slave interchangeably, and by law at various times, some Indians could be enslaved and others not. In 1866, law decreed that every person having 1/4 or more African American blood was deemed to be a colored person. Notice this is when they start with the flat blackness. This is when they say, okay, you too dark, you must be African. Right? This is how we get to flat blackness. This is how we get to African American. Right? Now, this is in 1943, because like I said, 1943, you got to understand something. 1943 is about 70, 80 years removed from the start of Reconstruction. And they knew what was coming. They knew that sooner or later that we were going to start to demand our shit back. We were going to take advantage of the same administrative processes that they set up and demand our shit back. They knew that we was going to talk about. They knew that some of the people that were alive in the Reconstruction era were still alive. They knew that it was a memory of Lincoln while he was alive, was pondering on whether or not to admit the Oklahoma Territory as a completely just one black state. That's where the whole 40 acres and a mule promise came from, because they was about to make, until Lincoln got killed and Andrew Johnson took over. They were about to make Oklahoma just an all black state. Right? Yeah, well, show her this. Show her this, Rashawn Talley. This brother writes, glad we having this conversation. I was saying this to a black Colombian in Colombia, and she just kept bringing up Jamestown and can't process that FBA are native to the USA, but she copies black Americans. You know what? A lot of these foreign niggas, I wouldn't even waste my breath, because they so goddamn, these niggas are so goddamn brainwashed, it ain't nothing you can tell them. It ain't nothing you can tell them. Yeah, that's why Oklahoma was Indian territory, because that's where they were sending all of the niggas. Y'all don't think it's odd that the black population of Oklahoma is so fucking high? So I think they damn near neck and neck with Mississippi. And does anybody think that it's also a coincidence that this was taking place once again during the Democratic administration, the Roosevelt administration in 1943? Think about this. You got the power balance of the free world at stake in 1943 during World War II. And white Americans are acting like a house cat trying to find a place in the garden to bury their shit. Ain't that crazy? You know why, right? You know why. Y'all should hit the cash out for this one too. In 1943, they were trying to duck that ideological fade that they knew was coming. In 1943, the Democratic Party was trying to duck that ideological fade that they knew was coming. And that ideological fade was, wait a minute. Y'all talk all this motherfucking American freedom shit. Y'all talk all this motherfucking democracy shit. But we based our Nuremberg laws off of y'all Jim Crow laws in the South. American Democrat. This is their way of trying to duck their ideological fade. Because wouldn't you look, trafficking the slaves is one thing. Trafficking the slaves is one thing, but you would place yourself at the very apex of hypocrisy if you going and waging wars around the world in the name of democracy, in the name of freedom, to stop what you see as wars of aggression, when you have a history of wars of aggression in your own country. right? So coming out of the 40s into the modern era, that's when that's when with all of the push for self-determination, whether it was communist inspired or not, for the so-called black man in this country, that's when they knew that they had to do something. All of a sudden you get, all of this pan-Africanism is a thing, right? All of a sudden Roots comes on TV. And just a few years after, just maybe a decade or so after this study, a Northwestern University professor by the name of Herskovitz goes over to West Africa. Now, here go more black pills. Watch how the educational system and the media works intertwined to deceive you of what your lineage really is. Just on the heels of this study by Walter Plecker, Herskovitz goes to West Africa, and then he tries to tie our lineage to West Africa by saying, hey, the reason that women, black American women, are so domineering and have so much charge over here is because that's how they were when they were in Africa. And people ate that shit up. It was bullshit, but they ate it up. So then after that, you see Roots. You see Jesse Jackson talking about we African Americans. Now, was the term African American used before then? Sure, but it meant a whole different thing. Like when I showed y'all that study that they did about the differentiation in wages between native black Americans and black immigrants. When they first had they first like aid administration for them, they called it the African American Union, I think. And they later changed the name because they had to change the name to line up with the propaganda. And the term African American was used way before then. But they were literally talking about people that were African. They were not talking about us. So now we reach the modern day where we have been somewhat decimated with no, we have no, not somewhat, we have been decimated by this demographic fraud. We've been othered from our land, with the whole go back to Africa shit. That's a psyop too. Pan-Africanism, yes, was a psyop. The educational system with Walter Plecker, with 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 Herskovitz from Northwestern University, the entertainment industrial complex with Roots, right? Weaponized demographic fraud. And so now you have it where white it's like when it comes to this employment shit, when I look at, all of the white collar jobs that's went to first and second generation or recent African immigrants, I'll be telling niggas, it's almost like they showed niggas they showed you niggas the Cosby Show as a fantasy on TV, but they gave their reality to the motherfucking Africans. I'm gonna say it again. They showed you niggas the Cosby Show on TV, but they gave it in reality to the Africans. Them nice houses, them nice cars, them degrees, those white collar positions, they gave that to them. They told you pull yourself up by your motherfucking bootstraps, boy. You not working hard enough. You not saving your money. You buying rims. You getting too many haircuts. You like Timberland boots. That's what they told you. And white people went along with the gaslight. Because they'll bring Mobutu black ass over here and get him everything for free and give them a motherfucking degree. And then when you talk about a problem, oh no, that's not true. You can't say this is a racist country. Look at Mobutu over there. Look at Mobutu over there. Yeah. Hell, he's Mobutu is he's a pillar of the community. He's a pillar of the community. He's on the board of the community college. He's got a $1 million dental practice. What do you mean they're holding black men back? What about Mobutu? What about Mobutu? Gaslight the fuck out of you. And then black women so fucking, they don't even realize that they just they thought they was laughing. It was just us. No, bitch, it's you too. No, it's you too. You want to get all Afrocentric and wear your braids to work. Fufu don't wear her braids to work. Fufu wear a wig or a perm. Well, Jacinda, I look, Jacinda, you're a very good employee. Your work is phenomenal, but this hair thing, it's just not professional. It's just not professional. And you can't say we're being racist because Fufu, she doesn't wear her hair like that. Why don't you be more like Fufu? She's African. She doesn't seem to have a problem with it. So what do you mean you're embracing your roots? Fufu doesn't wear her hair like that. I'll talk to you later, Jacinda. Have a good day. Gaslight your ass into oblivion. Gaslight you into oblivion. The descendants of them $5 Indians and Siberian slaves that's on them reservations, they call you a pretendian. Even though it's pictures from back then showing you niggas walking the Trail of Tears. It's pictures that depict the Inland Chief Wabasi as a nigga with nappy hair. They gaslight you too. And it don't even stop at race. It's gender too. You so-called black women that wanted to co-sign to these trannies, now they trying to replace you. They're trying to replace you. Sports, modeling, all that. They're trying to replace you. The video vixens. Is she? They trying to replace you. But see, when somebody want to gatekeep, now they being divisive. They being xenophobic. They being transsexual. You niggas is go nice guy your way right into motherfucking extinction. And you heard it here first. You heard it here first. The same, like this brother Tech Boy say, the same political tricks over and over and over and over and over again, and you niggas keep falling for it. And Cameron Morris, everybody is in on the joke but you. Everybody is in on the joke but you. You walk into the break room, everybody laugh and they shut the fuck up. Everybody is in on the joke but you. I rest my case, man. It's been a Black Pill PSA, man. Peace.